All that you've done, I will thank you for all that you're going to do. All that you promised and all that you are is all that has carried me through. Jesus, I thank you. And I thank you, Lord. And I thank you, Lord. Thank you for loving and setting me free. Thank you for giving your life just for me. How I thank you.
Church of Christ. I've been to several camps over the years. So some of you know me, some of you don't. I know Greg and Tina there in the back. But tonight I'm going to talk to you a little bit about my recent trip, my mission trip to India. This was a trip focused more on evangelism. You know, people on medical trips, people go on trips to build houses and things. You may know Paul Garrettson. He goes to Honduras and does some stuff like that. But we went primarily to preach. That was what we did. We handed out food one day to some widows and some blind people. One day we taught in a preaching school, and another day we also got to tour a school and / children's home, and I'll talk about some of those things tonight too. So, by the way, if you have any questions during this, just speak up or raise your hand, whatever. I'll be happy to answer any questions. And I'm going to talk a lot about like the things that are in the country, what it looks like, how it is, so you can kind of get a feel for what's there. But then at the end, I'm going to draw it all back for a spiritual point for all of us. And I think that it will be beneficial for all of us to hear after I give you some information that may not be directly spiritual related, but to just kind of get a mental picture in your mind of what India's like, what the work there is like, and what the church there is like. And after I finish that, I think the point that I have to make will really help us all in our spiritual walk with God. So I'll start off by talking about kind of the people there. Now, this is a traditional Indian garment that they brought me while I was there. They're very giving, they're very hospitable, over-hospitable. You know, a lot of times here in the South, or you go to a family dinner or something, everybody's welcome and, you know, eat as much as you want, honey, and they'll sit it out on the table and, you know, everybody gets what they want. But over there, they're a little over-hospitable. And so what they'll do is they'll sit you at a table, and I'll talk about food in just a moment, but they'll sit you at a table and you'll be eating, and then they'll try to give you more and more and more. And the food's not always that great, so you don't really want any more. Son, small piece, more, small piece, please. Please. And so they're really over-hospitable and they keep trying to give you more. If you ever go over there, don't tell them something you like because they'll give it to you for every meal. Fried chicken. Somebody told them that we liked fried chicken one time. So they make us fried chicken every single day. But, and you can see the chicken out in the streets, like they butcher it and then it's just like hanging there with all flies all over it. And that's what they cook and serve to you. So it's kind of, no. And then they make potatoes every day too, because they know we like potatoes. So they serve us chicken and potatoes. Wow, boy, southern meal there. However, it's not like a baked potato. They'll cut them up. They served us baked potato one time, and it wasn't a real baked potato. It was like, anyway. And so they cut the potato up into like these little potato sticks, maybe something like we've seen in the snack machine. They were like that long, and then they're about this wide, and they'll serve them to you every day. First few days, boy, those were really good. But the last few days, it's in the 80s and 90s over there, and it's not like a humid Tennessee heat. It's a nice dry heat, so it wasn't really too bad. But you get hot. You just don't want to eat anything. There's a lot of strange smells over there. There's a curry smell everywhere you go. If you've ever smelled curry, you may think it smells good in an American restaurant. Go to India, curry no longer smells good. And so you just kind of get sick. We go out there and we take like Vienna sausage, tuna, applesauce. I tell you, I've never appreciated peanut butter so much until I went to India. Because you get like a peanut butter and cracker, or like in the mornings we would have like toast and eggs and stuff, and we would put the peanut butter on it. But we took food like that to eat while we were out in the villages instead of eating the local food there. A lot of times what you'll see is after we would finish up, and what you do when you go to a place, some of the buildings were about this size, and the buildings over there are nothing like our church buildings. They are usually made out of concrete. Concrete's a big material they use over there. There's a cement franchise called JP Cement. And so a lot of the houses, like in the towns, will be made out of cement. And you'll see in the church building, like a cement base, kind of like this one, except a little more rough. It'll be smooth on the top, but the sides will be all rough. And then sometimes they'll have a roof. They'll have columns and, of course, the roof there. And then sometimes you'll see one that's 2 stories, and they'll have like a primitive kind of a stairway up made out of concrete too. All open on the sides. So we're not talking, pews and and a microphone and everything. They have a microphone and a sound system, and they actually they don't. It'd be so interesting to do this here in America. When we do our church services, of course, the microphone is just inside the building. Well, they set up speakers. If we were in India right now, they'd have a speaker set up, and I'd be having a microphone, and everybody probably over to that McDonald's over there in the corner would be able to hear me. They just blast it all over the town. So it's quite interesting how they do that. You know what? They'll put this big thing on you. The best way I can think to describe it is like a giant lei. And this is not like Dollar Tree $1 lei that you get at your beach week at school. This is like 3 foot long, coming down here, authentic, real flowers, this thick, like fresh, smelly flowers, and they'll put it on you and they give you a Diet Coke and a Coke. Okay, so this is their way of welcoming you. 15 minutes, you went 35. So it's good. Usually what we would do is there'd be a main speaker, and then somebody else might speak, and then somebody else might just give a welcome when we go out there. But since we don't speak the language, and since we don't necessarily go into homes and do personal Bible studies with the people because it's more effective for the people that are already there to do that, what we'll do is we'll talk to the Christians there about being a Christian. We'll talk to them about what it means to be a Christian, things that they can do to strengthen their relationship with God. We'll encourage them. We'll encourage the preachers there. Then after we finish speaking, there will be one of the main guys, the guy whose house we stayed at, and I'll talk about the places we stayed in a minute. You're going to love that story. Anyway, his name was Nagabushanam, and he would give like an invitation type thing and talk about the plan of salvation. People over there are so receptive to the gospel. When you go out to a remote village, you will see mud huts with like coconut leaves on top of them. And there's a lot of people that are just, like, you feel sorry because there's these old people and they're all tiny. All the people over there are very small. Like you right there, that's average size. So, yeah. So Grace Philpott, that's average size right there over there. I'm sorry. But this is a perfect example right there. I'm sorry, you can slap me later. Anyway, so what you'll see is, and you feel sorry because there's like these old people and they're just like doing this. And you know that's what they've been doing every day for the past decades. And so people are just sitting around and looking for purpose. And Jesus gives people purpose, and Jesus gives people purpose here in the United States too. And I think that's why we have a lot of kids that go to drugs and sexual things and other things. There's tons of big issues. Those are usually the two big main ones we mentioned, but there's tons of other reasons why kids turn to things like that. I think it's because they don't have purpose. And it's the same thing over there in India. Because people don't have a purpose, they're just kind of sitting there, and because they don't know anything better, because they don't have the amazing opportunities that we get here in the United States, they're looking for something better. And when they hear about the gospel, they realize that the purpose for them and that's something better for them. And I think that has something to do with why they're so responsive to it. And one time there was this big dam and there was water flowing out from under it. We baptized in that. Really cool story from there. There was this lady, and you'll see people over there with birth defects. I mentioned we handed out food to some widows and some blind people. That was a very humbling experience. And when I say widows and blind people, I don't mean the little lady who sits on the back row at church, who lives in the housing authority, and who gets $400 a month. I mean people who have no form of health care like we have here in the United States, people who are aching, people who have tumors literally coming out of their face this big. And when I say food, I don't mean food stamps where you can go to Kroger and buy some cereal and some lunch meat. I mean 5 scoops of rice and a bag of palm oil, and that's for a month. So, we have people on our welfare system, we have people on our disability system who cannot work, who need that help, and we give them that help, and I'm proud to live in a country where we can do that. But even the people that are struggling are very blessed compared to what they have over there, because there's no form of government, true, real, helpful government aid in those areas. Some people have church buildings, some people don't. Some people just have like tents, so it's kind of like an old tent revival. Those of you who are older may be somewhat familiar with that. Jerry, can you tell us about that life? Thank you.
Got you covered there, son.
And in the churches, I don't know why they do this, it's just part of their culture. Women will be on this side, men will be on this side, and the kids will be all up at the front. I don't know why they do that, it's just pretty interesting. I felt over there, I felt safe. This is the best way I could think to explain it. I felt safe but not secure, because there was no time that I was like fearing for my life or, oh no, we're in danger. As far as I'm concerned, no, Jesus said be faithful unto death. But at the same time, it's like if something did happen, like it's not like you can call the police like you can in the United States. So there's also that kind of feeling. But there was no time when I was just peering away or anything. So it's definitely interesting. It borders Pakistan. So you're not too far from all that. I'm a big car guy, so I'm going to tell you every brand that was over here. And so you'll see those, and then when you get into this, there's also this car brand called Tata. I think it's kind of funny. And then, and they like this car. They make everything. They make like cars, satellites, air conditioners. So they like own everything over there. It's kind of like Walmart does here, in a way. Except Walmart doesn't make cars. Well, it's actually not like Walmart at all. Never mind. There's also these rickshaw things. It's like this yellow thing that's got 3 wheels. On the side, four, limit of 4 people. I counted 15, and I'm pretty sure I saw 17 in one of them. That was probably the highlights of what we did as far as like the main activities. But the greatest thing about it though is the relationships and the connections that you make with the people. I'm friends with them on Facebook. Hi, how are you? What are you doing now? They're messaging me on Facebook all the time, which I love. It's nice to get to talk to them. But the main thing about it is the relationships that you make with the people over there. God's all about relationships. I remember one time I was at Lomax and Jerry gave a lesson on relationships, and that really clicked with me because I thought, hey, that makes sense. That's what it's all about. And that's probably one of the first times we met, like 6th grade. And so this kind of goes back to this idea of relationships. God's relationship with us, and then our relationship with God, and the relationships that we have with other Christians. We recently got a new preacher at Pulaski Street. He's been here 3 Sundays. His name is Jacob Evans. And he recently said, you cannot get closer to God without being close to a group of God's people. And I think that's very important, that we cannot become closer to our God without being closer to a group of His people. And so when you go across the world and have the opportunity to get to know someone whose name is Chinny Prakesh, or P. Nagabushanan, or some other name that it's hard for us to pronounce, it's really cool. And it's really cool to see how they're doing the same things that Jesus would have us to do over there as we're doing over here. And it's really cool to see how we can share the mutual love, that common bond that we sing about here in the United States through the work that we can go over there and do in India. It's just amazing. That's the word. That's one of the only words I can find to describe it. And it's kind of like when you go to a place, and I'm sure if you've ever been on a foreign mission trip or if you've been on a domestic mission trip, it's kind of like you leave a little piece of your heart there. Because when I was about to leave, when I first heard about it, I was like, yeah, India! This was a year back. So, you're all excited about going to another country. This is my first time out of the country, first foreign mission trip. But as it gets closer, you're in high school, you're involved in a lot of things. It's like, okay, I'm going to have to miss this. About the 9th day you're there, it's like, what's going on at home? Because I haven't had much Wi-Fi, I can't get social media. I called some people while I was over there. But, you leave home, and it's like, I want to know what's going on back home. And so I'll be honest, while I was there, I was kind of a little overwhelmed with that. I was overwhelmed with the fact that they just kept trying to serve me because you just want to say, listen, sit down and let's have a conversation, okay? Sit down. Don't try to give me any more food. Don't try to serve me anymore. Let's just sit down. What can we do for you? And you're tired. You're spending all this time on the road, in this bumpy road, in this tiny car. And when you're over 5 feet tall, anything that in these little cars can be kind of uncomfortable when you ride as long. But in the end, it's all worth it because you're doing it for the cause of Christ. And that's what makes it the whole difference. And that's why Jesus said, go into all the world and make disciples and baptize them and teach them the things that I've commanded you, because in the end, it's all worth it. Doesn't matter if I have to sit in the car for 4 hours and I have to go to the bathroom so bad it's about to come out and we're hitting every single bump in the road. It doesn't matter if we're hot and we're sweaty. It doesn't matter if we have to stand these conditions for a little while, because it's all for Jesus. And when we realize that it's all for Jesus and it's all for self, I was listening to a tape on the way here and the guy was talking about giving. And when you realize that it's all about giving of yourself, that's when you will reach a new spiritual level and a new spiritual height. When you are willing to give yourself and say, hey, I'm going to go here, I'm going to do this. Okay? That's when we will really and truly realize what the message of Christ is about. And it'll change you when you go to a foreign place. I knew there was going to be dilapidated conditions. But what I didn't know is that I was going to leave a piece of my heart there, and I was going to want to go back many, many times over and over again. And then I was going to want to go back and see those people, strengthen relationships, make new relationships, help them tell more people about the gospel, encourage them. There's a lot of problems over there, just like we have in the United States. And there's some stuff over there that the preachers do. There's some stuff over there that some of the people in the churches do. Will make you absolutely infuriated and angry. But guess what? We work through that together because we love each other and because Jesus loves us. And just like here in the United States, we are going to get through it because we have a God that helps us get through it. Because the church, as we know, is made up of imperfect people. You know this information. This is not new. The church is made up of imperfect people, and that's why we have problems. Okay? But we can work on those problems, and we can help other people work on those problems. I have clothes under this. Don't freak out. So this brings me to the last point here, and then I'll take questions at the end. This is my traditional Indian garb. I'm going to take it off. You know, I went to India, and I did this foreign mission trip, and I was, you know, a foreign missionary for the first time. Stuff over there doesn't fit as well. And I, you know, had this amazing experience, and did this really cool thing, and came home with these really cool clothes, and that I thought I wasn't going to wear because I was like, hey, maybe these will be worth some money one day. And then I was like, I don't think so. And so I came over here, and then I got home, and I realized how much I loved it. But you know, the other thing that we have to realize is this: it doesn't matter where you go in the world, who you are, what you do, what you accomplish, or what you know, whether you go to Mexico, whether you go to Dominican Republic, or Spain, or City of Children, all that is wonderful, all that's fantastic. India is wonderful, it's all fantastic. Any culture that you go to, any foreign place, it's all fantastic and wonderful. We're commanded to do that. But under these Indian clothes and under this traditional Indian garment that I was in, under this representation of what the culture of India is and everything they're about, all the food over there, all the language over there, the people over there, the customs over there, underneath all this is my American clothes. These jeans from Old Navy, these Chacos that I got at Lawson's, and this shirt that I got from Lawrence County High School. Underneath all this is my true personality, my true who I really am. And all of us, underneath the foreign trips that you go on, underneath the domestic trips you go on, you're still from Lawrenceburg. You're still from Columbia. You're still from Spring Hill. You're still from Nashville. You're still from Alabama. You're still from wherever you are. You still go to CA. You still go to Zion. You still go to Central. You still go to LCHS. You still go to whatever school you go to. And that's your mission field. If you never go to India, okay. If you never go to City of Children, okay. If you never leave this country in the United States and go to Haiti, okay. Because when Jesus said go into all the world, do you know what all the world includes? It doesn't just include 9,000 miles away. It doesn't include 30 hours of travel to get somewhere. It doesn't include making a huge trip. It includes the person that lives right next to you. It includes the person that sits 2 seats ahead of you in class. It includes the people that you come into contact with when you're hanging out with your friends at Sonic. Includes all those people. You may have heard this before, you may not have, but it's a great reminder for all of us, including myself, and that's why I'm telling you this. I don't care if you never go out of the country. You know why? Because there's a ton of good work to do here. How many of you know somebody at your school that's not a Christian? How many of you know somebody where you work or in your community that's not a Christian? Oh, okay. So we don't have to go 9,000 miles. We don't have to go to another state. Folks, the work is right here. And I think it's wonderful to go on foreign missions, and I'm not putting that down at all, and I think it's fantastic. I think we ought to go. I think people that go and live over there, wow, what a sacrifice. I think people that take short trips over there, wow, what a great thing. How awesome it is that we're able to do that, that God allows us to do that, and we can fulfill the mission of going into all the world. But we get fired up about those things. We get fired up about going to CYC, EU, Horizons, fired up about traveling somewhere else, doing other things. But guys, we got to be fired up about what's going on right at home. Mm-hmm. Because right at home is where we can have the most influence. Because we know people, we know the culture, we know what those phrases and sayings mean around our town, and we know the people that we come into contact with. You know your friends, you know your friends, y'all know your friends, I know my friends. We know how our relationship is, we know what they like, what they don't like, and each and every one of us has to come up with effective ways to share the gospel with that person and or to share the gospel with that person in a more accurate way. In the book of Acts, we had Priscilla and Aquila who took Apollos aside after he had done preaching. Apollos was from Alexandria. Basically, he had a degree, he had an MDiv and a doctorate of theology, okay? That's this guy was very educated. He was very eloquent in speech. He had a very good vocabulary. He knew how to present things. He's the guy who knew what he was talking about. He was the guy that was passionate. And folks, how many of you have a friend who may not follow the Bible exactly, but they're passionate about what they believe? They're passionate about their religious beliefs. Okay, we know these people. And so many times I think also we forget, listen, we're not starting fresh from everybody that doesn't know anything about Jesus. Folks, we got people that know more about the Bible than we do, but they just don't know the accurate things about worship, the accurate things about how to become a Christian. We have the work laid right out for us. We just have to take advantage of that. We have to teach people the gospel, and we have to teach it to them more effectively. And each and every one of us has to get together, has to think on our own, has to look to our leaders, has to look to each other and think, boy, how can I reach this person? What can I do specifically for this person? It's me, and I can help them, and then they can in turn help me and others. And we have to think about those things. And I'll leave you with one scripture, Matthew chapter 9, verses 37 and 38, as we think about reaching out here at home. Matthew chapter 9, verses 37 and 38. And he says, "Then he said to his disciples, the harvest is plentiful, but the laborers are few. Therefore pray earnestly to the Lord of the harvest to send out laborers into his harvest." If you are a Christian, you are a laborer. I want to be a worker for the Lord. You know, when we sing that song, do we really believe what it says? Do we really believe that we can be workers for the Lord? You know, I lead singing quite often, and one of the most annoying things is to see somebody, I want to be a worker for the Lord. I want to love and serve. Really? What is that? I mean, what are you doing? Why aren't you singing with vigor? If you want to be, if you're passionate about something, you don't sit there. No, I want to be a worker. You sing like that with passion. And so we have to get passionate, we have to get excited, we have to find ways to reach out to our friends. We have to find ways to get ourselves to places like India, and Mexico, and Switzerland, Czech Republic. We have to get ourselves to these places. But we have to also find ourselves to get our way into Central, into CA, into Zion, into Lawrence County, into Lipscomb Academy, to Freed-Hardeman, to Lipscomb, to Faulkner, to all these schools. I don't care if you go to a Christian school, there's people there who don't know their Bible. I don't care if you go to a Christian school, there's people there who are not Christians. I don't care if you go to a Christian school or a public school, there's people everywhere that need our help. And we're the laborers that Jesus wants in his harvest. And so wherever you go, keep him first. And wherever you go, find ways to spread his word. Let's pray together.